So guys, take a look at this video title here. It says, breaking, Northern Nigeria on high alert as US Congress set to propose Nigeria breakup. If you've been following the news, you must have heard that one of the options, on the table for Donald Trump, talking about Nigeria and insecurity, is to split Nigeria into two so that the North can go its way and then the South can go its way, considering the fact that the US demanded from the Nigerian government to remove Sharia law from its constitution. But the Northerners are saying over their dead body is not going to happen. And for the fact that the Sharia law has come to play and it is also causing a lot of insecurity. Most of these people killing, for them, killing is not a crime, it's not anything bad. They are doing it for Allah. And the Sharia law, tells them that they will be rewarded. And that's why you see them chanting their religious chants each time they go out to kill. So the US lawmakers are looking at, should splitting Nigeria actually bring peace to the country, which many people have welcomed, that if they really want to, that Nigeria to be saved, that it will be better divided. Anyway, this is coming also after Nigerians have seen so many level of, hypocrisy, talking about the way insecurity is being handled. You must have seen the terrorists being granted pardon, being rehabilitated, giving taxpayers money. Recently, we saw that even the Katsina state government budgeted, one of the local government, just local government, budgeted 300 million naira for these bandits, and there was a lot of uproar. So when you look at it, the Northerners are actually sympathetic with these terrorists because they believe they are freedom fighters, and what they are doing, I don't really think is against the Sharia law, because for them, if you refuse to convert, killing you is also an option. Anyway, guys, and now one of the proposals before Trump is to split Nigeria. Anyway, I'm going to allow you to watch this video just for you to get more insight on what I'm saying. But before then, take a look at some of these headlines on the social media. Amnesty International lambasts Nigerian government for failing to probe killing of 150 pro-Biafran protesters under late Buhari. People who came out to protest demanding for Biafra were killed. And then the Tinubu's government doesn't want the probe to happen. Tell me why. Why terrorists are being pampered. But when it comes to the Southeasterners, the case is different. I don't know how we just want, how are we going to get this fairness, for God's sake? Now, Raimore is also shocked by what happened in Kaduna State during last Sunday service, Many churches were raided and many people were killed. Like you can see, it says, horrific news. Armed radical Muslim Fulani attacked 3 churches yesterday and killed more than 100 Christian worshippers, kidnapped more than 100 Christian worshippers. Our brothers and sisters in Christ are facing an existential threat at the hands of the Fulani militias. More must be done to protect them, and I urge the Nigerian government to ensure the swift and safe return of all those who were captured. So guys, this was also posted by Sahara Reporters. Like you can see here, it says, breaking, bandits kidnapped more than 100 churchgoers in Kaduna community. These are some of the reasons why people are saying Christians are not safe in Nigeria. Whether you like it or not, there is Christian genocide. And military man, I think he was in the Navy, he said the best thing for Tinubu to do is to divide Nigeria. That Tinubu should divide Nigeria as for Islamizing Nigeria, that Nigeria is going to be Islamized. That divide Nigeria to save souls, to save more lives. This is coming from a former naval commander, asking that Tinubu should just gather the courage to split the country. Now, I'm going to allow you to take a look at the video that says that the North is rejecting any attempt to, to divide Nigeria. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notification for more. Thank you.
2022, to be able to work for His Excellency, my father, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. I think I'm a bit excited to be here with all of you. This is a very key time in the history of our country. 2022, I believe. We started this organization in 2022 to be able to work for His Excellency, my father, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. I think I'm a bit excited to be here with all of you. This is a very key time in the history of our country, where you have incredible leaders like His Excellency Senator Barao Jibrin here. So today I'm formally here to announce my exit from my former party, where we worked in 2023, and to the APC. With this development, I will work with His Excellency Senator Barrow to actualize his second term.
To issue directives on which party or candidate it should actually support. The Haske organization is not a party to, neither is it interested in joining ABBA to defect to any other political party apart from the African Democratic Congress. Bakri said the group was formerly part of the PDP and resolved to move en masse to the ADC. In a very recent development, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is currently meeting with the Kanu State Governor Abba Yusuf. The meeting is taking place in the President's office at the Presidential Villa. You'd recall very recently that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had actually said he wanted to meet Abba Kabir Yusuf and asked for e-registration exercises into the APC in Kanu State to be aborted for now up until there is an official unveiling. Kabir Yusuf is seeking for an automatic ticket within the All Progressives Congress and some members in his cabinet to be re-elected or given some positions in the House of Representatives ahead of 2027. Meanwhile, a former Minister of State for Education and two-time member of the House of Representatives, Chukwuemeka Nwajuba, has formally declared his intention to contest the 2027 presidential election on the platform of the African Democratic Congress. While Nwajuba, a seasoned lawyer and former chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, said his decision to seek the nation's highest office was driven by the need for a shift towards competence-based leadership in the country. Speaking on his ambition, the former minister stressed that Nigeria's growing socio-economic and political challenges requires leaders with deep policy understanding, negotiation skills, and the capacity to build effective grassroots political structures. According to him, rhetoric without substance has failed to address the country's problems over the years. Now, concerning insecurity in Nigeria, and House of Rep member Riley Moore speaking on it, let's take a listen to more talks by the House of Rep members disclosing that insecurity in Nigeria cannot continue like this. There are foreign lobbyists who are reacting to the president's regime concerning bribery, the $9 million lobbying payout, including Riley Moore saying that this situation or scenario can no longer continue as I think of a way to ensure that Christians in Nigeria can no longer continue to be threatened or live in fear. Let's take a listen to him.
General Musa. Talking to Minister Musa, former General Musa, and he was asking, well, what does tomorrow look like? And I indicated to him that we would be actually going to a church service, a Christian Reformed church service, and the head of the Christian Reformed Church Nigeria, Reverend Magaji, has become a good friend, and he and I had never met in person, but we had met a number of times over Zoom. And we were going to the church, and Minister Musa said, where is it, and what's the name of it, and I may join you. Well, sure enough, he came. And I felt like that was a bit of a turning point. And I hope it was a turning point. He ended up doing a number of interviews after the church service as well, where he reinforced this notion of this not just being hooligans and people that were out. He was calling them out with ill intent. He was calling them terrorists, and I think that's the appropriate language to be using. And no doubt, Nigeria is extremely complicated. There's a number of factors. I keep getting asked by the media, yeah, but this isn't just about religion. And as I actually said to a reporter yesterday, I said, could you tell me what conflict in the world is only about religion? Right? It's about power. It is about money. It's about a number of things that always are happening there. But I think some of my colleagues are denying the flip side of the coin when they say, well, this is just about herdsmen and property owners and conflict. Well, they are missing the other side of that coin, which is the religious motivation behind oftentimes those actions. And we have to acknowledge that. They haven't seemed to have been able to acknowledge that. I hope that they're able to come along and understand that and be able to acknowledge that. But you know, we saw the strike happen on Christmas Day. I kind of wondered to myself if they would have maybe delayed it a little bit because we were in country. I'm glad we didn't find out. But we still saw, however, attacks afterwards. And we know that this has not been fixed. Now, I'm not anticipating that this is a just flip a switch kind of moment, but we have to see a commitment, not just words, out of the Tinubu government. We have to see actions. As part of our meetings that we had there, we met with the governor of Plateau State as well, and heard his perspective about some legislative actions that were going on, about the debate about whether states should have their own police force as well versus just relying on a national police force that oftentimes isn't as responsive as it needs to be. The debate about whether others besides the Fulani who should be able to have weapons for self-defense.
All right, that's a U.S. House of Rep member speaking on the recent developments, specifically as to what the real origin of insecurity is, not necessarily based on security, but actually for the absolute attainment of power. Meanwhile, the former Minister of Aviation, Femi Fani-Kayode, has dismissed a report by the New York Times suggesting that the United States airstrike carried out in Sokoto State were based on an intelligence report of a civilian, actually resident in southeast Nigeria, Onitsha to be precise. He argued that it is impossible for the United States to carry out such a mission based on the intelligence report of just one individual. Speaking via X, he asserted that such an action could only have been taken based on intelligence supplied through formal collaboration between U.S. and Nigerian security agencies. He described the newspaper's account as misleading and damaging, accusing it of attempting to undermine the credibility of both the Nigerian and U.S. governments and their intelligence gathering capabilities. He says, and I read, anyone who honestly believes that the U.S. government based its intelligence to bomb parts of Sokoto State on the intel supplied by an Onitsha-based screwdriver seller who used Google to source his information and not on the intel supplied by the Nigerian intelligence services must have a low IQ, low self-esteem, and a low intelligence quotient. I respectfully urge such a person to get sense. The false and mischievous narrative which has been purposely put out by the New York Times to belittle, demean, embarrass, and debase both the Nigerian and the U.S. governments and their intelligence gathering capabilities is puerile and childish. No country will allow its country to be bombed in the name of fighting ISIS or anyone else, on the words of an Onitsha utensil trader, and neither would the Americans take such a precipitous and consequential course of action, on the words of such an individual. You're currently listening to the World News right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll head into our news analysis segment where I'll be joined via the telephone with Barrister Fred Nzako, who is a political, national and social affairs commentator. Barrister Fred Nzako will be giving us some insights into some of the stories read out on the World News at 6. To kind of stay with us. And thank you for staying with us today. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the World News. Barrister Fred Nzako, let's start off with the obvious that transpired during the weekend. I wanted to ask this question, Barrister. The situation of insecurity has been on for almost 12, 13 years thereabout. The PDP, both the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressives Congress, have been going through this unfortunate circumstance. And insecurity has morphed into different terror cells, and they have actually been able to adopt different capacities through which they carry out their heinous activity, specifically land grabbing, forceful conversion, and literally murder, in some regions in Nigeria. Just yesterday evening or on Saturday, we saw a report by the New York Times, which was first of all released by the cable. We discussed it on the political spotlight yesterday, where they simply hinged the supposed decision by the United States of America on an individual based in Onitsha, whom they supposedly wanted to sound derogatory by terming him as a simple screwdriver seller, who obviously is his report, a secondary report that the U.S. based its intel on before the carry out the December 25, 2025 Christmas Day bombing. How do you see that kind of report at this kind of situation? Do you think it undermines Nigeria and the United States of America?
We have to say it the way it is, and we have been saying it. That this insecurity situation in Nigeria, especially since 2014, has been as a result of lack of political will to fight insecurity, essentially because of political interest, especially because of some primordial interests that have nothing to do with the welfare of Nigeria. And that is why the government has been variously accused of not only fueling it or financing it in some cases through some officers of government, or looking the other way as if it doesn't matter, as if the government benefits from the situation. It defies all logic and defies all reasonable argument. America had come to save Nigeria from the hands of terrorists. The same terrorists that the government said under Buhari's regime that they are not Nigerian, that they are not Fulani herdsmen, that they are from other parts of West Africa because of their porous borders. And America had now come to drive them away. The same government started protecting them by trying to even bribe America to give them a loan. Now, anybody who begins to tribalize or ethnicize the insecurity in Nigeria, in this country, any good, how can anybody begin to reason that America that can gather any information from any part of the, both under the earth and on top of the earth, that America will be relying on a so-called intel or a so-called advice or a so-called report by one casual fellow in the southeast? This simply tells you that Nigeria as a country, especially those in authority, don't understand what the people are going through. Everything is politics for politicians. Now you are talking about Southeast. Oh, it is IPOP that they are trying to tell America to come. Oh, Biafran, they want to use America to come as Biafra and secede. Oh, all of crabs and nonsensical narratives coming from quarters that don't love Nigeria. The simple fact is that America even knows Nigeria more than Nigeria knows herself. American officials, top officials of America, know this country more than top officials of Nigeria know Nigeria, because they will look at the truth, they will look at the reality, devoid of sentiment, devoid of nepotism, and devoid of unnecessary politicking. So anything that they do is based on their own intel, based on their own conviction, and based on what they know, and not based on one narrative by the corner.
Okay, Barrister Friday Nzako,
being spewed by people who don't mean well for this country.
Barrister, there are so many research on the killings in Nigeria, way back from the administration of late Musa Yar'Adua. All right, even during the administration of former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. One of such persons who has written such a lengthy article.
The tempo, the dynamics, and the crescendo increased with the government of Muhammad Buhari.
Okay.
I have not seen it up to today.
Barrister, what I'm saying is that Professor Joash Amukwiton, the current INEC chair, wrote on it. In March 2025, Bishop Anagwe went to the UK. There was a parliament set up. He presented pictorial evidence of the cleansing going on in Benue State. That's not the only time we've seen report. Bishop Matthew Kuka himself, during the administration of former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, wrote and made utterances and statements that actually gives credibility to the killings in Nigeria. So why does it seem like there is a deliberate attempt to cover up the obvious or twist the narrative that insecurity is not prevalent in the country?
Esther, it is not the only thing that is deliberately being covered up. The problem with Nigerian environment is that there is so much propaganda and half-truth. There is so much lies and people don't say the truth. Esther, what is the population of Nigeria?
It's 200 and something million. More than that now.
Estimated given by the United Nations and by the World Bank. We have not been able to conduct a credible population census. What is the quantity of crude oil that we produce in this country? We don't know. How much is our foreign debt and our foreign reserve? We don't know. Everything is estimated. Everything in Nigeria is estimated. Simply because people shy away from the truth. People, especially people in government, shy away from the truth. As if they are anticipating that somehow, somewhere, sometime, it will be to their political benefit. And that is why everything is either swept under the carpet or covered with something that will not allow the truth to surface. And that is why the issue about insecurity, just like every other issue around Nigeria, is surrounded in propaganda and lies and half-truth. And as long as you don't confront problems and challenges with reality, you cannot solve them. And that is the problem that we have. That is just the problem that we have. Until we tell ourselves the whole truth about issues, that's where we begin to solve issues in this country.
It's actually on record that U.S. President Donald Trump has actually had filed a $15 billion defamation lawsuit against the same New York Times that released this particular report. You know, there are talks that the New York Times are part of those who are the leftist, who do not actually support what the United States President's administration, and there are also several talks that obviously some of the supporters, their media, could use anything to supposedly, erase some of the efforts of Trump's administration. Meanwhile, House of Rep member Riley Moore has not receded in his call concerning the Christian genocide in Nigeria, although he has admitted that it cuts across fronts. But they're talking about a situation where there could be a split in Nigeria into 6 geographical zones. Is it possible for the U.S. to initiate that process of dividing Nigeria into 6 geopolitical zones?
Let's not forget that the U.S. officials had long predicted that Nigeria could break in 2014. It became an issue. It became a very, very serious issue within and outside Nigeria. Nigeria survived it. We had an election in 2015. And why they were saying so, it was after the election that Nigeria started understanding why they had that, they made that statement. It is because while the PDP was preparing for election, the then APC was preparing for war. And it was on account of that that President Jonathan immediately surrendered power. Even when he did not consult his party, he did not consult his family, he did not consult his allies, he consulted nobody because he saw what was coming. And if he did not surrender power to Muhammad Buhari, Nigeria would never remain the same. And America possibly did not believe that an African president would surrender power the way President Jonathan surrendered. So that prediction, if you could call it the prediction, would have come to pass in 2014. Now Nigeria glided through it, and today the problems and the challenges have not only ceased, rather they are increasing in momentum, but they are increasing in dimensions and in problematic challenges. If I tell you that we have continued to say in our movement for Nigeria restructuring that Nigeria has 2 major options, 2 main options to continue to make progress. Option number 1 is to restructure this country along the lines of true fiscal federalism. We have the template. We have 6 geopolitical zones that are not recognized by the Constitution, but are recognized administratively, and everything we do in the country is based and anchored on these 6 geopolitical zones. You now ask, why can we not incorporate these zones in our administrative structure so that Nigeria will be better managed and better run as a restructured polity? The second alternative that Nigeria has is a very terrible one. I don't want to mention it.
And what's that, Barrister? What's a terrible one?
I don't want to mention it because that is where Nigeria is drifting towards. Let us remain with the first option, which is a human, sensible option. The other alternative is mind-boggling and unimaginable. mind-boggling and unimaginable. And that is why we continue to preach, we continue to advocate that we should minimize our level of personal greed and personal interest. Let us think this country, and the best way to think this country is to restore to Nigeria. Every geopolitical zone can stand as an administrative zone, can stand as an administrative center, can stand as a major component of the country whereby each zone will now develop and grow along the line of very fair competition, along the international best practices as you practice in other parts of the world. Many countries in Europe are not as big as one single zone in this country in terms of landmass, in terms of population, and in terms of natural resources. So why are we not telling ourselves it's untruth? Why are we not telling ourselves it's untruth? And like the Americans have predicted, if we don't restructure this country, Esther, along the lines of true fiscal federalism, the worst alternative, which is the terrible devil's alternative, may be devil Nigeria. And we can only say God forbid, but as human beings, we have a responsibility and a role to play to ensure that Nigeria remains a country.
Well, Barrister, as it stands, it's unfortunate that the supposed accusation about a Christian genocide, this terrorists keep amplifying by creating or giving more evidence and clearance to it. Just yesterday, gunmen abducted over 100 worshippers in 3 different Kaduna churches. This is basically the description that has been going around concerning the Christian genocide, and more than 100 of them, they went to 3 different Christian churches in Kaduna, obviously to be in southern Kaduna, and they kidnapped these people. We don't know precisely what will happen within their enclaves where they have carried them out onto. We're still waiting for the military to give us an information if they have begun a manhunt or if there'll be a negotiation to release these victims. They were said to be kidnapped during Sunday services in Kurumin Wali community, Kajuru, local government area of the state, inside the church in broad daylight. So if anyone is trying to make it seem as if some persons are trying to tarnish Nigeria or create a breakup of Nigeria, what does this evidence actually prove if it's the report we keep on hearing all the time in the news?
The fact and the problem is that instead of addressing the main issue, Nigeria prefers, officials of Nigerian government prefer to live in denial.
It has to do with politics, the sponsors, people that feel that this country should be Islamized. It's not about ransom. I just want to confirm to Makwe that she is right. It's not about ransom. They just want to pass a message. We can come in. We can do what we need to do. And there are some hardliners in this government that are sponsoring this kind of narratives. They just want to show that they can Islamize this country. They think about Taliban. They think about the Mujahideens, and they want to replicate it in this country. And they don't care what happened. They simply don't care. As long as at the end of the day, there's Sharia, and there is whatever thing they have in their head, and they want to achieve. So these people that are sending messages are sponsored by Nigerians.
So if I could follow up on that. Well, he's here with us now. That was several years ago. Colonel Lawmakers, former Navy Commander, Professor of Global Security Studies, also Nigerian Defense Academy. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much. After 3 years, we have seen again.
I know, several things must have been going through your mind when you saw all of those bills, the propositions, the narrative, the comments making the rounds only recently, even though 3 years after you made that comment. So tell us, what was going through your mind when you saw all of these things as though they were playing out what you had spoken of earlier?
It just basically confirmed my fears, When I was saying those things, a lot of colleagues didn't like what I was saying. Some people felt that I'm anti-Islam. My dear, I'm from a Muslim background because my grandmother, married a Muslim man after the husband died, and all my cousins, all my sisters, grandchildren, they are Muslim. I'm from a Muslim background. And I don't know. General Adam Bazao will attest to it that when I took him with the Minister of Defense, to Italy, they were my guests in Italy. And I took them to the largest mosque in Milan, and we prayed together in the mosque. And personally, I think I will tell you, I took him to Al-Aqsa Mosque in Israel to pray. And I have nothing against Israel. But you see, we are talking about identity and governance in this country. Identity and governance. It is so discouraging to know that at this century, we are still at this level of religious understanding. We are still at this level where I would say most of the things that we call religion, either Christianity, Islam, are basically some historical books that were plagiarized by most of the religions. I don't want to be specific. Now, these are ancient historical books that were plagiarized, and people decided to use them to either enslave you or take over your land and so on. And I'm really discouraged because at this level, Nigerians are so uneducated when it comes to religion. That the Arabs, the British, the Romans, they use religion actually to capture your state, to enslave you. If we look at most of the religions, I don't want to be specific, they all practice slavery and also. So for us to be at this point where we're supposed to be talking about the hunger that is pervasive in Nigeria today, the inflation rate, the poverty, we are basically sitting in the hallowed chamber, and what we can discuss is that they want to remove personal from something, and that's what they are going there to do. When people are dying, people are committing suicide, families are collapsing, and they will sit down there and start talking about removing personal so that they can basically Islamize the country finally, because once you remove that personal, technically now Nigeria is Islamized.
All right, I want to be able to get the understanding of that, because the sections that were the places that they were looking for amendments to, sections 24, 262, 277, and 288. And what I'm seeing here, Ali Musao, at the time when he suggested these changes in the 1999 Constitution, removing the word personal whenever it is mentioned from the section, allowing Islamic law to stand on its own. Explain to me the correlation between that and Islamizing the country, just so we can understand where you're coming from on this debate.
Yeah, where I'm coming from is very simple. We may think it's semantic, but it is not. Personal just talk about issue of marriage, things that are personal, maybe inheritance, maybe divorce, But if you look at the antecedents, Sanfala started this by introducing something that is taking care of criminal laws. Okay? So now they want to extend it. Instead of them to actually discuss the 1999 Constitution, it is a fraud already. That Constitution is a fraud. Now what you are doing now, you want to start, advancing the interest of those religious groups to actually now confirm that Nigeria is an Islamic state. And let me tell you something that people don't know. This thing was caused by the British. Between 1900 and 1960, they knew that they cannot govern the North except they allowed them to practice their religion, and they were using their religious leader to basically govern them. It is called indirect rule. Immediately after independence, 1960, the British knew that they shouldn't have forged these two people together. They know. But because they want to achieve the divide and rule and to be able to conquer and take our resources and steal whatever they want to steal over the years, they merged these two people together. They could not govern the North and South under one religious or administration. They know. So they're not being independent and match you people to work together. That was why the 1960 coup started. That was how the Civil War started. Now, 86, Babangida came with OIC stuff, tried to Islamize us. It didn't work. In 2000, when 1999-2000, when Obasanjo came, he permitted them to start practicing Sharia. Today now, they want to consolidate it. Once you remove that person, all of us, whether you are Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, Jukun, Christian, traditional, you are now under the law, the Islamic law, because they put it in the Constitution.
In fact, listening to the member that was representing Ahoda East, Abu Anudua Federal Constituency, River State, I want to get his words. He said, personal matters, that was envisaged, he says, by the people who drafted this constitution. And I want to quote him. The implication is, if the word personal is removed, Islamic law would have broader implications. The word personal was put there for a reason. Let's talk a bit about this whole conversation about Islamizing the country with our population and our dynamics. You know, is it possible that someone can sneak this in at some point and force all of us under some sort of regulation that we do not ascribe to? Is it possible that this can happen in this country?
It is possible, and don't be deceived. It's going to happen. Do you know Constantinople? Today's Turkey? They were almost 98% Christian before now. Today, it's an Islamic country. I did Islam in my master's program, and I was trained by Professor Alijani. He's a Persian. He's an Iranian American. And I scored A. That's excellent in Islam. So I know them. It may take them 1,000 years. They will Islamize Nigeria. So they will take it slowly, gradually. They don't forget. All of us will be dead after some time. Our children that don't care, or this Gen Z will come. They will still Islamize this country. If they can do it in Turkey, today's Turkey, what stops you? Why do you think they won't do it here? Except we take steps now, because we are the ones that are talking about these things. Our next generation in 50 years will not even care. You understand? So I'm thinking that if some part of the country, I don't want to be specific, if they feel strongly about an ideology, a religious, but I think they can restrict it to their area. And I think maybe Tinubu should do well by developing this issue of regional autonomy where everybody should organize themselves, or at worst, let the country actually go apart, and you can do whatever you want in your area. I've come to that conclusion that I don't think we can stay together because of this very strong belief about religion. So it's either we stay together, or people should mind their religion and stay where they are and practice what they want. Imposing it on others.
So guys, let me quickly take you through some of the reactions coming from Nigerians after, some of these videos that you've seen. Ishod, let me react to this headline. An Igbo man in Onitsha is the one who has provided the US to bomb Sokoto State. So guys, you must have heard what is happening. So it was being said that Donald Trump that came to Nigeria to bomb terrorists, that the intelligence use was given to him by an Onitsha trader. That's New York Times posted that, and there's been a whole lot of backlash, because saying that means that Trump did not get the real intelligence before coming to Sokoto. But at the end of the day, we heard terrorists were running helter-skelter. We heard that the bomb blast killed about 150. It was after Trump's airstrike that we even got to know that terrorists are really existing in Sokoto State. Before, we thought it was just bandits between, let's say bandits, because these groups are actually different. These ones they call boundaries are mostly the Fulanis, you know. And now, I don't even know what is happening in this country, honestly. Sometimes when you look at what's happening in Nigeria, you just be ashamed of yourself, you know. Now, Tinubu's government came out to say it was we who provided the intelligence that they used. And now, and now they are coming to tell us that it's an Onitsha trader just to put the Igbos in spotlight. Anyway, let me show you how some Nigerians have reacted, because kanu actually tweeted it. But let me show you how some Nigerians have reacted to kanu's tweets, you know, as regards to this. This person here said, they say whom the gods will destroy, they first make him mad. The evidence is clear. Nigeria is about to break and her leaders' sanity is compromised. So Onitsha screwdriver salesman is now the one that wants to sell to the public. That is what 9 million naira got. So guys, we know that Tinubu has been accused to pay lobbyists, you know, to downplay the Christian genocide. And Nigerians are saying, is this one of the games, you know? Now, this one here says, while Tinubu and his men lobby to get Trump to invite him to Washington, D.C. for talks, one individual in Onitsha market get direct contact to President Trump and entire U.S. security team. Igbo Kwenu, Tinubu team just wants to set up the Northeast against the South. The North against the South is who be fool. And this person say it's a pity, so it's okay to say that Tinubu didn't know when Trump came. So they... So why did they tell us that it was a collaboration that the US came? Okay, they are in collaboration that the US came. The propaganda is weak and very weak. It can be believed by only Gumi and his boys. I'm glad it's an Igbo man. We are the gatekeepers in the country. We are the air they breathe. They want to give more US intels to us. They want to give more intel to the US. We really need more bombo in this nation. The tragedy of Nigeria paying self-serving lobbies in Washington, you know, Washington, 9 million to change the narrative of the known Christian genocide by the insidious and interactable Boko Haram and ISWAP terrorists and bandit. For a serious nation, that money will help the military to fight terrorism. So guys, you know that actually the Nigerian government is said to have, through the office of the NSA Ripado, hired a law firm in Kaduna State, which now hired a lobbying firm in the US. And after that news was just last week, and now this week now, they hired this law firm in Washington, D.C. Now, a Washington Post is now saying that it was a Mecca, the screwdriver that provided the intelligence. So the lobbying firm is already working. That's just what is being said now. Now they are downplaying, you know, the Christian genocide going on and trying to rubbish Trump's airstrike by saying it was a screwdriver, a businessman, an Igbo businessman in Onitsha that provided the intelligence that Trump worked on, while we saw the Nigerian government through the office of the foreign affairs minister coming out to say they provided the intelligence. But before America struck, they said they work in hand with America. America also appreciated the Nigerian government to have collaborated and cooperated with them. So you see, this is the consequence of paying for lobbyists. You know, they can write anything just to downplay. Look at in southern Kaduna, more than 100 people were taken from their churches on Sunday, and you say there is no Christian genocide. The Fulani terrorists appeared during church service, kidnapped more than 100 persons, entered the bushes, and we have not had any news from the government. Nobody is talking about it. This is what Christians go through in Nigeria because they are Christians. Anyway, guys, Let me know your thought on all this in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notification for more. Thank you.